Well, while I'm recording videos, before I have to take off and go run a bunch of errands, I got a bunch of errands to run today. I thought I'd do a video on news. I haven't done any news in a while. So I'm just going to hit a couple of stories in the Jerusalem Post. A couple of them just hit some headlines, and a couple of them dig a little deeper into the stories and what's going on to keep you guys up to date and some of the things that are happening. We see a lot of things moving, a lot of chess pieces moving on the board. We see a lot of stuff happening, and we're screaming towards that day that that peace plan is going to get released. I cannot. It blows me away how fast time has sped up, and I know a lot of you have seen that. Um, because it seems like you get up in the morning and it like that the day's over. Then you turn around twice and it's the end of the week, and it just seems like it was just January. So anyway, um, we see the signs coming. He's made us aware. Those of us who are ready, those of us who are prepared, those of us who are watching, he's making all this known to us very clearly, and he's making it all known to the watchmen and to the teachers and to everybody out there who's, oh, come on. I guess I let it sit there open too long. Bunch of ads popped up. So we see all these things that are happening, and it's amazing to see it. Um, it's amazing to be witness to this. I did a video. I told you guys we are chosen for this time. Back at the very beginning, when God first started making everything, He knew who we were, where we were going to be in the timeline, what we were going to be doing, and who He wanted, who He was going to choose. So if you're a Christian right now, you were chosen to be a Christian. He picked you out of this world and said, that's the one I want. I want that one. I want that one. And I already know what paths I'm going to put in front of them and everything. So you were picked. Wasn't by accident. This wasn't by just mere chance in the cosmic scheme of things. You were chosen to be a Christian at this time in history right now. He picked us for this very specifically. This wasn't just by accident. It wasn't like just dropping a bunch of tacks, and say, well, let's just see where they hit. So if you're a Christian right now and you're seeing what we're seeing and you believe you're following the truth and trying to stick with the scriptures, you were chosen for this, very specifically for this. So that's an honor to be picked for this kind of event, because it just as easily you could have lived over the last 2,000 years, and it would have been you'd lived and that'd have been the end of it. That would have lived your life. Well, we were picked for right now. There's a reason why we were picked for right now. So take a lot of joy in that, to know that He looked at you, He chose you. I thank Him all the time for choosing me, taking me out of this world. To me, it just blows my mind, that He picked me up out of this world to do this. So let's cover a couple of um, headlines, and maybe we'll hit a story or two and read a little deeper into them. So we got people fighting against the U.S.-Iran policy. Iraq's former Prime Minister Maliki joins the chorus against the U.S.-Iran policy. Right now, the I can't think of the word now. The sanctions that they put on Iran, we're trying to choke Iran off. Problem is, other people are giving them money. So the Saudis Chad just talked about it on his video he put up today. Talked about it. I couldn't remember if it was 10 million or 10 billion, but it's 10 billion, and they're paying them $10 billion, a billion a year over the next 10 years to sign the peace deal. Well, they're taking that money and they're using it for their war machine. And I told you guys yesterday, the government has turned control over to the military. So now the military is going to do things. Now, the government was holding them back to not go and take action. They were keeping them under wraps and tell them, just stay where we put you and just wait. Well, now that they've given the control to them, now they're going to go and do what they want to do. And some of their generals they got are hardcore Jew-hating, America-hating, and they just want to blow everything up. So now that everybody's moving missiles in, now as everybody's getting shipping in, we got bombers flying over, the situation is very volatile. And it's just going to take one match to set it off. So we could see a war come up pretty quick. Let's see. Right now, there's a scorched earth legal battle between the prime minister and the AG. That's between Netanyahu and I forget what the other guy's name is. Let's see. Eyeing Iran, U.S. sending more Patriot missiles to the Middle East. Let's just dig into that one just a little bit. So, acting U.S. Defense Sec. Oops. Acting U.S. Defense Secretary. Would you stop? I hate this thing. Patrick Shanahan has approved a new development of Patriot missiles. Deployment of Patriot missiles to the Middle East, a U.S. official told Reuters on Friday, in the latest U.S. response to what Washington sees as a growing threat from Iran. Iran's about to set it off. They don't care. There's videos you can find where they're teaching the kids beheading Jews and Americans. The decision further, actually, there's a bunch of them here that are doing that too. There was a video out about that just a couple days ago. The decision further bolsters U.S. defenses and comes after the Trump administration expedited the deployment of a carrier strike group and sent bombers to the Middle East, following what it said were troubled indications of possible preparations for an attack by Iran. The reason why we are going over there and we're getting that wall of protection up is because their sole target, their sole focus, their whole goal of existing is to destroy Israel. They want Israel wiped off the face of the earth. Every single one of them. If they had their way, they would go to every country, find every single Jew they could, and they would kill them. They've openly admitted to this. The U.S. official who spoke on condition of anonymity declined to say how many Patriot batteries would be deployed. The Patriot missile defense system is made by Raytheon Company and is designed to intercept incoming missiles. Wow, Raytheon. I worked with some of their people up at Fort Drum. The decision to send Patriot missiles to the region would mark a reversal of sorts, coming just months after the Pentagon removed several Patriot batteries from the Middle East. Last year, officials described the withdrawal of the Patriots as part of a broader effort to adjust U.S. military deployments globally, as the Pentagon sought to prioritize military challenges from Russia to China. So we see the situation coming unglued over there. And like I said, we've got people launching this. North Korea is launching missiles, messing around, trying to stir something up. We've got them up there throwing out threats. They're moving their military down to Israel and all over the place. Everybody forgot about China, but China still has their military prepped and ready, and they've moved missile batteries up. So they're ready to go. I mean, all the players in the game are all ready. They're all prepared, and they're right there. It's just a matter of pushing the first domino over. They're poking at it now. One Palestinian was killed and 30 were injured in Friday clashes with IDF forces. You guys know they've been moving the IDF all over the place now. Well, they started doing the balloon bombs again, coming over on the northwest. I think it was a northwest wall, way over the far end. It was just away from Golan Heights, but they were floating those balloon bombs over. So they got in a big scuffle, and they're still messing with the tunnels again. Why is the pressure mounting between the U.S. and Iran? Let's see. Iran announced this week that it is changing a key term of the Iran nuclear deal and plans to make an even more dramatic change in 60 days if partners don't ease conditions. The partners, Europe chief among them, complained loudly, but so did the ex-partner, the United States. The Trump administration immediately retaliated, expanding sanctions on Iran after Tehran said it would fiddle with a deal that the Trump administration thinks should be null and void. Hey, this is binary. This is, quote, "You're either in compliance or you're not," Secretary of State Mike Pompeo said in Baghdad on Tuesday, a day before Iranian President Hassan Rouhani announced the change, and at the same time that the Trump administration was celebrating the one-year anniversary of pulling out of the deal. Reports of Rouhani's planned announcement had already emerged. Pompeo's statements sound a little confusing to observers who have followed the Trump administration's stance on the deal. Trump has called the agreement the worst deal ever. This isn't the peace deal. This is the deal that they're doing with Iran to control it. They're all trying to make backdoor deals over there. The answer is that the Trump administration sees Iran's behavior as another instance of why it pulled the U.S. out of the deal in the first place. The Iranian regime is not trustworthy, and we know that. Quote, cheating just a little bit is still cheating, and in the context of Iran's nuclear commitments, it will not be tolerated, Brian Hook, the State Department's special representative of Iran, said Wednesday at the Center for Strategic and International Studies. Quote, if the clerics in Tehran choose, as the Iranian people are demanding, to play by the rules, respect and sovereignty of their neighbors, and abide by international obligations and commitments, the United States will be ready and willing to engage. But we know what's going on. The situation is bad. What Iran is planning. Under the 2015 deal, Iran was permitted to enrich uranium for peaceful medical research purposes, but was required to sell its surplus. Iran is now immediately keeping its surplus low-enriched uranium, which it had sold overseas. Low-enriched uranium may be repurposed to make nuclear weapons. In 60 days, unless its partners take steps to ease its economic isolation, Iran has threatened to remove caps on uranium enrichment levels and resume work on its Arak plutonium nuclear facility. Now, you guys remember back when Obama was in office, they had started working out this deal, and he was going over there a lot. Then he gave them that huge lump sum of money. That was to help them with this, help them build this. How the Trump administration reacted? It added new sanctions on Iran's metal sector, on top of sanctions already on Iran's financial and energy sector. How partners to the deal reacted. The European Union and 3 signatories to the deal, Britain, France, and Germany, demanded Iran to stick to the deal and urged the United States to butt out. Quote, we regret the reimposition of sanctions by the United States following their withdrawal from the JCPOA, a joint statement said. Using the acronym for the deal's name, the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, we call on countries not party to the JCPOA to refrain from taking any actions that impede the remaining parties' ability to fully perform their commitments. Russia and China, the other parties to the deal, are equally as committed to making it work. What the Trump administration wants. They want the deal to collapse and for Iran to acquiesce to its demands that it ends all nuclear activity. That's not unreasonable because we know what they're going to do with it. That Iran stop producing ballistic missiles, that it stop interfering in the region and elsewhere. The United States sees Iran's malign hand in Yemen, Iraq, and Syria, and as far afield as Venezuela. We know what's going on down there. And that it improved human rights for its citizens. Like I told you before, they have got mass riots going on over there, clashing in the streets constantly. They try not to let that information out, but it's bad. Is the pressure working? So the Trump administration thinks so. Quote, for the first time in a very long time, we are raising the cost of Iran's expansionism and making clear that this kind of blackmail will no longer work, Hook said. We are making it unsustainable for Iran to support terrorist proxies and militias that for decades have defiled the basic standards of behavior observed by normal countries. Iran's broke right now because of all this money they're shelling out and having to pay fines. He listed, among other consequences, the effective expulsion of Iran from the SWIFT international financial messaging system and the admission by Hezbollah, Iran's ally in Lebanon, that it is starved for cash. The other partners to the deal are committed to resisting the pressure, and the Europeans are pressing ahead with plans to set up a complex barter system called Instex that would work around the U.S. sanctions. And I talked about that a while back, too. What happens next? Someone blinks. John Bolton, Trump's national security advisor, last week announced the deployment of extra forces to the region to counter what the United States says is Iran's heightened menace. He cited, but did not define, troubling and escalatory indications and warnings from Iran. Trump, reportedly wary of Bolton's overseas interventionism, might want to replicate his direct overtures to North Korea by talking directly with Iran. No predecessor ever did. The Obama administration stuck to multilateral talks. Quote, what I'd like to see with Iran, I'd like Iran to call me, he said Thursday at a White House briefing with reporters on planned reforms to medical building. So we see the tensions in this system, the situation. We see all the players doing their thing. We see all the pieces moving. I've kind of got a feeling that all this that's going on up there and distracting everybody up there, something's happening around Israel. Because the rocket attacks they had back here just this last week, it was over 700 rockets. They said that was a fire drill. That was a test. And what they were doing is they were testing the Iron Dome. They were trying to see if they could wear it out and put a bunch of missiles in there. They said this summer they're going to do a full-on attack. And they are going to cause problems within Israel. I believe them because Iran and several other, well, Russia too, and several other countries are paying them to do this stuff. They're giving them, because what they're trying to do is they're trying to say, well, we're disconnected from this. It's just them doing this. But we already know, we already followed the money and we know where it's going. So here in a couple of months, maybe a month and a half, might see a bigger attack happen from Hamas. And if, depending on how things go with what's going on right now, it could really get bad. Ilhan Omar's ignorance and bigotry on Gaza rockets comment. She's an idiot. All decent people should be outraged at the terrorist groups in the Gaza Strip that fired 698 rockets at Israeli civilians, killing 4, injuring 234, and traumatizing thousands of innocent children. Imagine what other countries, including the United States, would do if lethal rockets targeted their civilians. Yet Israel has responded with restraint. To be sure, 30 Palestinians were killed and 154 injured by Israeli efforts to stop the rocket rampage. Many of these were terrorists, but some were civilians who were put in harm's way by the terrorists. These deaths and injuries were caused by the tactic employed by Hamas and Islamic in jihad. They deliberately placed their rocket launchers in densely populated areas near schools, hospitals, and mosques. These people are cowards. I saw this firsthand in Iraq. They're cowards. In a deliberate effort to maximize Arab civilian casualties. This has been called the dead baby or CNN strategy. Their goal is to have CNN and other media show that children and other civilians that Israeli countermeasures have inadvertently killed, while trying to stop the terrorist rockets from killing Israeli children and other civilians. What they don't tell you is, and Amir Sarfati did a video and talked about this, they actually will lob one really low-yield bomb, like a mortar or something, boom, make a lot of noise. Then they call, because they have technology, they can get a number for somebody in that building. They call and say, you got 2 minutes, get out. And they let everybody get out of the building, and then they hit the building. So they give them plenty of warning, and Israel goes out of their way to not attack them. Because right now, Israel has the ability to literally wipe out the whole world nuclear. We know of over 300 nuclear missiles ready to fire. It's supposed they have over 600. So they could take out the whole planet if they wanted to. Tragically, this strategy works because with the media, if it bleeds, it leads. The visual media love to show dead and injured children without explaining that they are actually encouraging such casualties by playing into terrorists' hands. We know how the money game works and who they're loyal to. So too is U.S. Congresswoman Ilhan Omar, idiot, encouraging the firing of rockets by Hamas and Islamic Jihad by blaming the Israeli victims for what she calls the cycle of violence, instead of blaming those groups for initiating terrorist violence against innocent Israeli civilians. You know what I would like to see? And this may sound bad, but while she's up there giving a speech, I'd like to see somebody go up behind her where she ain't looking and just snatch that turban right off her head and see how mad she gets. I bet she'll talk about something else. In a tweet following the rocket barrage, Omar justifies the double war crimes committed by terrorists who target Israeli civilians while using Palestinian civilians as human shields. She asks rhetorically how many rockets must be fired and little kids must be killed until the endless cycle of violence ends. Well, go talk to your people over there, girl, because they're all running around starting all this. This implies that these war crimes are justified by what she calls the occupation and humanitarian crisis in Gaza. Does Omar not realize that Israel ended its occupation of Gaza in 2005 when it removed every soldier and settler from that area? Gaza could have become the Singapore of the Mediterranean while its port and location, with its port and location. The Israelis left behind greenhouses and other facilities. Europe and Qatar poured money into the Gaza Strip. But Hamas, which forcefully took over the area from the Palestinian Authority, decided to turn it instead into a large-scale rocket launcher. Instead of using its newly acquired resources to provide humanitarian benefits to its residents, it used them to build terrorist rockets and tunnels that targeted Israeli civilians. This is no secret. This forced Israelis to take countermeasures to protect its citizens, to use the occupation. There is no longer any occupation as a justification for why rockets must be fired, is to show both ignorance and bigotry. Nor is Omar alone in blaming Israel for the rocket attacks on its civilians. The ADC, American Arab Anti-Discrimination Committee, that's an oxymoron, wow, issued a statement condemning Israel for targeting and killing Palestinian civilians, including children and infants. Irresponsibly, it never once mentioned the firing of 698 rockets by the rulers of Gaza that target Israeli civilians, nor did it ever mention the sad reality that Hamas and Islamic Jihad desperately use Palestinian civilians, including children and infants, as human shields in order to increase the number of inadvertent Palestinian casualties. The conflict in Gaza will only get worse if terrorism is encouraged by the lies of commission and omission told by Omar, ACD, and other supporters. ACD? I think they meant to say AOC. She's an idiot too. And other supporters of Hamas and Islamic Jihad. All decent people must try to discourage the targeting of civilians by terrorist rockets and tunnels. A good beginning would be to tell the truth and tell that idiot to shut up. I write these words from Israel, which is now commemorating the many soldiers who have fallen over its years of fighting against those who would destroy the nation state of the Jewish people. It is also celebrating its 71st year of independence. No nation has contributed so much to humankind in such a short period of time. No nation faced with threats compared to those faced by Israel has ever had a better record of human rights, compliance with the law, the rule of law, or concern with avoiding civilian casualties. The world should join Israel in celebrating its 71st year of statehood. The world should also recognize that if Israel's enemies stopped attacking its citizens, there would be peace, but if Israel stopped defending its citizens, there would be genocide. And we know that's the truth. Let's see. So as you know right now, Israel is celebrating their 71 years of independence. A lot of the calendars that people are using are different as far as when these days are. I'm not 100% sure why so many different dates have been given out, because I think the 9th is when they started celebrating it. The information I looked up shows that it's May 14th. And we all go by that, May 14th, because that's May 14th is when they were given their, back in 48, became a nation again. So they're celebrating something a little bit different than their birthday. But that's why I'm doing that live broadcast. I'll go ahead and tell you guys now because it's Saturday. That on the 13th at 4 p.m. our time, Central Standard Time, America, that will be midnight their time on the 14th. So that's why I'm doing that live broadcast. Is I don't want to do it in the middle of the night when their daytime is. I'm going to do it our time in the afternoon, which will be their time. And it's just to acknowledge what's going on and acknowledge that they're turned 71, because that's all we're watching for. But I'm going to do a Bible study that's going to relate to that. And looks like that's the biggest ones jumping out. Yep. All right. So that's just a couple of the stories that are going on. We see the attitudes that are happening over there. We see the key players all in play. Everything's happening. Everything's rolling forward exactly like it's supposed to be. And like I've told you guys in other videos, most of the key players in this know exactly what's going on as far as Bible prophecy goes. Just as much as we're aware of what the Quran's prophecies say, they're aware of what the Bible's prophecies say. And they see the sign of the times. They see what's happening. They know their part in this. Most of them do. And they know what's happening. Whether they believe in it or not is a whole different story. But they know, they are in full knowledge of what's happening and what they're doing. That includes Trump, that includes Netanyahu, that includes Pompeo, and everybody associated with them. So, and I believe the people on the other side of the aisle know too. How could you not? That's like right in the forefront of everybody's mind right now, is seeing Bible prophecy being fulfilled. So they know what time it is and they know what's happening. So does Satan. He's watching and he's waiting. And this is why our attacks have gone up. So stand in faith. We know what time it is. We know what's coming. None of us need to be afraid. Stand in faith, wait, and see what happens. We're in the Lord. We're covered. We're good. All we have to do is just keep moving through life and just wait until everything changes. And we know it's about to happen. Thank you guys for watching the videos. Thank you to all the new subscribers that have come on. Thank you to everybody who, when you comment, you comment politely. I hope you guys can join me on the 13th at 3:45 for that Bible study, and then that little acknowledgement of Israel becoming a nation, their birthday, and that's about it. There's not a lot to talk about right now. There is, but like many of the other guys, I'm not getting a lot of that flow anymore of information to put out like I was. It was intense there for a while, and like I wouldn't even sleep at night. But everything's changed now. The whole atmosphere has changed about it, and the whole flow has changed. So a lot of other people see this too, and kind of wondering if this is the indicator, an indicator that everything's about to completely flip. We'll find out pretty quick. I bless you all in Jesus' name. I love you guys, and I will see y'all in the next video.